Welcome to the 3G Podcast,
a series on girls who are chasing their goals and reaching new heights in their respective worlds.
I'm co-host and two-time USA Olympian Nicole Ossinger.
I'm your other co-host and owner and designer of Cam Swim, Cameron Norfleet. And we're girls going for gold. All right, for this episode, and today's guest is Lauren Bercier, co-founder and CEO of Something Borrowed Blooms, a Louisiana-based, industry-leading rent and return floral boutique serving couples across North America. Lauren launched this rapidly growing business in 2015 with her cousin Laken Swan to modernize how brides plan and pay for their wedding flowers. Tens of thousands of brides across the U.S. and Canada have trusted her company to provide the perfect flowers since the company's inception. SBB was chosen as the 2019 FedEx Small Business Grant Contest Bronze Prize winner and was recently chosen as the grand prize winner for the IDEApitch at the 2021 New Orleans Entrepreneurship Week. If that wasn't enough, Lauren also sits on the board of directors of Junior Achievement of Greater Baton Rouge and Acadiana. So I'm super proud to have Lauren, who just so happens to be my amazing sister, on the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here with you. Of course, extra special because you're my sissy, so it's fun.
All right, so I want to take it back to way before pre-SBB.
Okay.
Where did you go to college? What did you study? What did you plan on doing post-college?
Okay. So I went to college at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette, go Cajuns. And I studied public relations, and I was really set on PR pretty early on. Like when I was in high school, I did a senior project on public relations. I knew I wanted to go into that field. So I studied that, graduated in 4 years, and then tried finding a job in PR in the middle of the 2008 recession. And so it was a really hard time to find PR work. PR is one of those kind of interesting fields where it's hard to quantify. And so it's hard for companies to spend money on PR when you don't see an exact return on it. So it was a little difficult to find a job in PR. I did some nonprofit work. I did some other things that I didn't really love. And after a few years, I decided to go back to school to be a teacher. So I went back to school. I got my certification in elementary education, taught for a few years, had a fun time doing that, loved my students, and then transitioned to stay-at-home mom. So it was this windy road, windy path of trying to figure it out. But I do think that my background in public relations has really served me well in this role. And I knew I always wanted to be the voice of a brand or a company. So it just so happens that now it's my own company. So it's really fun.
Yeah. That's awesome. So during that entire time of you transitioning into different jobs and then becoming a stay-at-home mom, when did the thought of SBB start? How did that come about?
Yeah, so it's funny. I remember vividly telling my husband when I was going to stay home once we started our family. I remember I said, okay, stay home, but just you wait. I'm going to think of something. And that was kind of the goal. It was I'm going to think of something while I'm raising babies. So that was kind of, always a seed that was planted. And at the time, Laken and I were talking a lot about different ideas. She was kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum. So she was working a corporate job. She was really busy raising kids, having to travel a lot. And we wanted the same destination or destiny, but we were at very different starting points. And so we knew that the outcome we wanted to be the same, but she would have to get to a point where she'd be able to walk away from her job, and I'd have to be at a point where I could dedicate full time towards a new job. So we kind of decided to jump in, and we wanted to start a business together.
Yeah, that really is so cool how y'all were at different points, but then still trying to get that same goal, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Now that we have the thought of SBB, let's talk about the early days of it. So we know that you were a stay-at-home mom, so you didn't have a job while you were doing that. So you kind of had the time to go all in, and then Laken had another full-time job where she wasn't able to. How did y'all handle that? What was your vision to try to keep the vision alive, even though y'all had different schedules and lives,
Yeah. So when we first started, we didn't talk about this, but like just to hit, like, so we had the idea of rent and return wedding florals really that started from like Rent the Runway. That was like the idea that really sparked this thought. Rent the Runway had taken off. It was becoming really popular. We knew modern brides and couples were looking for alternatives, like more traditional options. And so that was a thought. And when we settled on Rent and Return wedding flowers, it was something that had never been before. It was like revolutionary in the wedding flower industry, especially at a national scale. And that's what we knew we wanted to do. We wanted to take this nationally. And so we knew it was going to be an uphill battle and it was going to be a lot of work. But we had faith it was going to pay off, or it was going to be, you know, or also with a lot of risk, with also a lot of reward. And so one of the things when we started though was like we had to do a lot of education, research really first, and then education. So we were able to start in a slower, you know, more controlled way, just to make sure that there was actually an audience out there who was going to like our product and our service. So we kind of like dipped our toes in slowly, you know, like got products, made a website, started doing some weddings, and then like, okay, wow, this has some legs. It's going somewhere. Then it was like that fire was just in you because you like you knew you could make something of it. So at that point, like I just got fully like just immersed in the business. And you know, you mentioned like, you know, having the time because I wasn't working. But if anybody who's ever like been a stay-at-home mom would hear that, they'd probably be like cringe, because it's like, yes, you do have a job, you know?
Yeah.
I was like raising 2 babies under 2 years old, and it was a lot of juggling, you know, like nap times and feeding schedule, and then like trying to run into my office while napping so I could like post new things or, you know, put new things on the website. So it was a lot of, you know, a lot of work, but I think that when you're so excited and passionate about like what the outcome could potentially be, it doesn't even like, it didn't ever feel like something I had to do. It was always something I wanted to do.
Go back into like wedding flowers. So y'all decided that y'all were going to make all these wedding flowers. How did y'all start with that? Like, where do you go and get flowers from, you know, and start, like, what do you do?
Yeah, when we first started, we knew nothing. So we random like Google searched like, you know, floral wholesalers and this thing, like, you know, things like that. And we saw that there was a floral market in New York. So we literally like booked tickets, flights to New York, went to the floral market, walked up and down the block to see if there were any vendors that would sell flowers to us. And of course we did find one really small, tiny little shop with this lady who we still buy from today. And we bought some silk flowers, just bought enough to like make a few bouquets, a few centerpieces, and came home and put them all together, and then, you know, took photos and put them on the website. And then of course, since then we've you know, grown out of that. We have different vendors and a lot of like sources now. But when we first started, it was really just like, you know, you just had to like find ways to make things happen. And that's kind of the mode we were always in.
That is so cool.
That sounds crazy. That sounds really difficult.
I know. I mean, yeah, I guess it's difficult in a way because like there was no roadmap. Like there was no like, oh, here's what you do, or here's how somebody else has done it before. But it also is kind of the beauty of it, because you didn't feel like you were ever making a mistake, or we just thought what we were doing was exactly what we were supposed to be doing. We're confident in the choices, and like just, you know, we just kept moving forward. And I think that's really important in anyone's journey who is, you know, starting something new, just to like have the confidence to like, you know, put blinders on and just keep going.
Yeah, one foot in front of the other, just, you know, what's the next step? What's the next step? And just kind of seeing where it goes.
What do you think the biggest challenges you had starting? Like you said, it was that you had to go to New York and find a vendor. Do you think that was the biggest challenge, or what exactly do you think was the hardest part about starting this?
I'd say probably the hardest part in starting, and it wasn't really hard, but like gaining an audience, or like getting attention from your potential customers to know that you even exist, right? Like when you're going after a national audience, you know, there's 2.5 million weddings in the US every year. So that's a big, you know, audience to try to reach when you're so small, starting out so small. And so I think just like trying to figure that out and not getting discouraged at first when like it felt like it was always just, you know, kind of quiet for a little while. But then you get excited about like the little things, but at the time it didn't feel little. Like we get excited to ship out like 5 weddings in a day. It was like woohoo, like super exciting. But besides that, like just the actual like process of starting a company, it's not usually like, instant streamline. So like we started the company based out of my house. It was upstairs in my husband's man cave. Cameron used to help me. Like she used to like pack flowers upstairs and then bring them down to FedEx. And, it's just a lot of like, again, just like not getting discouraged or not like stopping, like just like keep going, keep going, keep going.
And do you still go through that? Like,
Yeah.
Do you like, yeah.
Yeah, because, I've been saying a lot, like growing pains are real and growing pains hurt. Like, yeah, it's like, oh, that's good problems. You're growing. And like, it's true. Like the problems now are amazing because, we have 25 people on staff and we're adding on 10,000 square feet to our building and like all these really awesome things that come from the growth of the company. But at the same time, it's challenging too. They're all challenges and you have to like figure that out. You still have those days where it's like, oh my God, you feel like, so much needs to be done or seems to, but you figure it out. You just have to keep figuring it out.
Nicole, I am actually in the place where
she's in
started.
The man cave right now.
I'm like I'm at my old desk right now.
Oh, wait, so you're upstairs?
Yeah.
Oh.
So Nicole, I guess we could also ask her like, and I think that everybody has this question is like, do you think you made the right choice? Like, are there ever questions of like, did I go down the right path? Like, what would I have changed kind of thing?
Like, are you asking, do I think I made the right choice to start the company?
Yeah, like when you look back, you're like, I made the right choice. Like, I'm glad I did this. This is where we're at. And, are you still on the right track of like what you thought it was going to be and where you hope to go?
Yeah, I have never doubted or questioned whether or not I should have started the company at all. In fact, I've recently started reflecting on like who I was before I started Something Borrowed Blooms. And I realized that like I like myself a lot more now than I did before. And I think that it's taught me a lot about myself and I've grown as a person, as a woman. I've just gotten so much more confident in who I am and in my abilities and what my passions are. And, seeing my value outside of like just my home life or my personal life, like there's a whole, more like complex side to my life now. And I really value that. And I'm so grateful that I've been able to, discover that through Something Borrowed Blooms. And it's still fun. So yes, I've never questioned it.
Did you ever have any thoughts from other people that would say like, you can't do this, or there's no way that you can like expand your business? Was that ever something that happened?
I don't think anyone's ever told me like to my face, like that this won't work. But you can always kind of tell, like I found like starting out though, I wouldn't share a whole lot about like how the potential or like the big picture, especially like in certain audiences, 'cause you can always tell when somebody's like just, doubtful or whatever. So it's very like, strategic and like who I would share like big picture vision to. It's funny because like rather than anybody saying like, I don't think you can do this or whatever, which honestly I probably would have said, okay, well, you don't really matter, so whatever.
Right.
But no, but the other, like on the flip side, we kind of had like these, negative Nancy's or whatever that always just have something to say about what you're doing because it's different, right? So like we had people who, just said negative things about the concept, about the business. I mean, we've heard everything from like, oh, this is so cheesy or, whatever. Oh, well, you're putting, small florists out of business. And like, we still get negative feedback like all the time. And it just happens. And at first I used to take it really personally and I'd want to like reply back or like respond back and like defend the company or, our employees or myself or the products or whatever, just like explain or, get my point across to these people. But then I read something one time, and I've really taken this to heart, and it makes a whole lot of sense, is that if you're doing something that is truly revolutionary or, really shaking up an industry, you have to expect like polarizing responses about your concept. You have to be prepared for people who are going to love you and think that you are the most amazing thing. Like your brand is amazing. They love it. They can't stop talking about it. In the same breath, you have to be prepared for the people who are like, this is horrible. This is the most terrible thing I've ever heard of. I have both of those responses when you're doing something that is truly like amazing, because it should invoke that type of passion from people. And so when I keep that in my back of my head, I'm like, okay, then we're still doing it right, because we're still getting those responses. If all we got was like, okay, cool. Oh, okay, cool. Then that means you're just doing something that's like mediocre, right? So I think that once I like took that theory and really like ingrained it, and you know, I've been able to really shake off the naysayers much easier.
Yeah, it's kind of like all publicity is good publicity in a sense. Like if you like think about it as like everything, no matter like who's talking, it's all like as long as you take it in the right way, then that's all that matters.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. Yeah.
And I think that just also kind of is a good way to like just guard yourself, because if you do take in all of those negative comments, I mean, anybody can say like a negative will trump a positive if you let it. And it's just so easy to like hold on to the negative. So if you always just like keep hearing those and listening to those, then it's going to trump all of your successes, which is just, not what you want to do when you're trying to grow and keep a positive attitude and, push forward. So to guard you that's important, especially in this, when you're building something.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And honestly, the positive feedback, which we get so much of, is really what keeps us motivated. Like our team, our design, everybody from our designers to our customer service to our tech. I mean, like everybody, like we review, we go over the praise or the feedback that we get weekly and really take it in. And those positive reviews mean everything to us.
Yeah, that's your fuel on your hard days for sure.
Yeah, the negative ones were like, meh.
We don't need to listen to this. Yeah. What is SBB's plan now? And 2021 is kind of coming to a close. So I'm sure y'all are getting ready, ramped up for 2022.
Yeah.
What are y'all's big picture goals now?
So, big picture is we are on a mission to capture 10% of the US wedding market. So that's what our goal is. Now, that won't be accomplished next year, but we're close to scratching about 1% of the US wedding market right now. So we're, we have some aggressive growth strategies in place and plan to see those out over 2022 for sure. We're excited because, COVID obviously really changed the wedding industry, postponed, delayed, all these things. So they're now like, they're anticipating that 2022 is going to be like the year of the wedding, where like all the COVID delays and postponements are going to like really take place next year. So we are ready for that. So like I mentioned earlier, we've expanded our warehouse. We're hiring more staff. We actually secured venture capital funding several months ago, which is super exciting. It means that we get to grow and scale more aggressively. So we're super excited about that. And if anyone, I just wanted to put this out there. If you're a female and you're listening to this, I just want you to know that like venture capital funding right now, the stats is that less of all venture capital goes to female founded companies, which is shocking, but not, and terrible at the same time. But I think it's important for founders to talk about capital and to talk about money to other founders, or so that they know that it's available, it's out there. If you can't see it, you can't be it, right? So if you ever have questions about venture capital or, raising funding, like I'm happy to answer those questions if anybody has them. So shoot them to me. Anyway, the capital and all of that is just allowing us to grow and scale and do some really exciting things. So we're going after 10% of the wedding market, but beyond that, we're looking at other ways to expand their business. We have like 3 or 4 projects in the pipeline. They're going to be really exciting. And then one thing that I'm really looking forward to that's not really in the pipeline, so I feel like I can say it because it might not or might come to fruition, is, just mark my words though, I feel like AR and VR could really change Something Borrowed Bloom's trajectory. I feel like we're going to have that soon. Not soon, in the next couple of years. That would really change the way couples plan for their wedding florals and decor. I think it'd be really cool. So,
Okay.
that's the big picture thing.
Yeah. Has that 10% of, capturing the US bridal market, like, has that always been your goal, or did that kind of come along like maybe after like a couple of months of doing the business, and like, where did that start?
No, that's not always been the goal. I mean, I remember when we started and we had the conversation, we're like, okay, if we can do 12 weddings per month, this would be a success. And now we're currently doing about 800 weddings a month. So it's, been a lot of growth since then. And I think, though, it's important to set new goals every year and like to strive towards something. And if you keep hitting your goals, that means your goals aren't big enough. We set big goals every year, sometimes even monthly, quarterly, we'll change them. And 10% has been in our back pocket for like about a year or so. We know that's probably like a 5-year plan.
Mm-hmm.
Or just like constantly like focusing and aiming towards that, just to kind of keep us on the right path. Yeah.
And I think it's true. It's like, you have to keep those goals, and like you want to be striving for them. Like you said, if you keep hitting them, then they're like just kind of easy and you're just not really motivating you. If they're the ones that you're just like chasing after, those are the ones that like keep you like your fire going, because you're like, you want to get there, you want to get there. So that's a good point. It's like, if you just keep hitting them, well, then they're probably just a little too easy to reach.
Yeah.
Me and Nicole, we've always said like this podcast is to motivate us on our hard days as well, So I think one thing that like me and Nicole always want to know is, do you have anyone that you look up to keep you going on the days that are hard and like that you listen to? Or is it just your future self? Like, are you like striving to just be like better for, like, is there?
I think I am that kind of person. I don't really look outward very much for, I know some people, like, I know like some people look outward and like look at, like they get their motivation from like outside sources, which I think is incredible. I don't tend to do that. I just tend to go more inward, and I'm always kind of like, okay, what else? What, like focusing on like my mental state, my physical state, like my family state. But like, I tend to kind of in when I know that I need to like get motivated. I mean, sure, I get inspired by people. Like Sarah Blakely to me is like phenomenal. Awesome. There's people that like I'm inspired by, sure, but yeah, I don't know. I think I tend to go like inward, try to just like, figure out what I need to do internally to make sure that like I'm optimized, that like my or functioning at my best capability. And then I get motivated by our team, honestly. Like we have an incredible team. We have 25 people on staff, and like every day, like their new ideas, new achievements, just their passion for the business that we've started. It's amazing, and it means so much to me, because when you see people like that who are so dedicated to the brand, the company that you're building, it definitely keeps you, focused and motivated, and it's pretty awesome.
What advice do you have for younger girls or any type of person that is trying to reach their goals? What do you have to say for that?
Don't be afraid to make a mistake or to fail, or to try something that doesn't quite work out like you thought it would, and then try something else again. I mean, if you think about like where I started, from PR to education, stay-at-home mom, like my path has not been like straight. And I think that's totally okay. So I would say like, don't let that discourage you, but you have to have like inner, again, like grit and sheer just determination. Like you have to find it within you when nobody else is there to say, oh, good job, or hey, I'm still here supporting you. Like, you're not going to have that every day. Like, that's just the reality of things. Like, there's going to be days where you're alone and you're fighting the fight by yourself. And if you know that you have it within you to just keep the fire alive, like, you know, like just keep going after it, and just to keep that determination, then I have no doubt that you will get exactly where you want to be. I think it's sheer grit and determination. I really do.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I was like, man, it's true. And you have to believe in yourself, because that's all there is, and you have to believe that's it.
And you know, I say that at the same time, like, I have a wonderful support system, right? Like my family and my husband and Laken, like I have a wonderful support system, and that's super important too. But you will always have those moments when it's you and your thoughts and you're by yourself, and you have to know that like you have it within you, and you do have it within you. You just have to like know that. That's, I think, really key. And I think that's the biggest difference in people who go a certain far, you know, and then they stop, or they try, you know, which is fine. But I think that like just, you know, for an answer and just going until you get to the destination you want to be at. And the destination you want to be at is different for everybody. It doesn't mean that you're a venture capital backed company. It might not mean that you have 25 people on staff. It might mean that you start an Etsy shop and you're making this thing that you love to make, and that is your destination, and that is fantastic. That's important too. Like, there is no one measure of success. Like, just because you see somebody else doing this, you know, one way doesn't mean that's how you should end up, or that's where you should strive to be too. There's so many, you know, ways to determine or for you to feel successful, and it doesn't have to look the same for everyone.
Yeah, I think that's so important too, for like everyone to just like hold on to, is like everyone's journey is completely different.
Yep.
And you can't compare to other people. You don't know all the behind the scenes either. So like you can't get discouraged if you're like, oh man, they're making it faster than I am. Like everyone's journey. And the thing is that there's no just like one destination. It's not just like you're going to make it and you're there. So, you know, you have to hold on to that. Like the journey is going to be different, and the destination may change as the journey progresses, and that's okay too. But yeah, it's true. You just have to like just keep going and just know that like you can do it, and just hold on to that and see where it takes you. I do have one question though for you. So, you know, everybody kind of has this idea of like, oh, when I make it. Was there ever moments of like, I made it, or like, I'm here, this is happening? Or is like, you're just always just like kind of running after that?
Yeah. I mean, I probably should stop more. Laken and I talk about this a lot, how like we need to be better at stopping more and like recognizing the moment, appreciating it, celebrating it. But it's really hard because I just like, for me, it's always like, okay, what's next? Okay, well, like, no, I still don't feel like I've made it. I still don't feel like, oh, this is success, or this is it. Like, I'm like, oh shoot, we didn't hit our sales goal this month, or oh, we still have product. Like, it's always like forward looking. So, and I'm not saying that's a good thing. Honestly, I need to work on that. I really do, because we've had a lot of incredible things that have happened to us that we have celebrated. But like, I guess the point is my, you know, do as I say, not as I do, while you're on this journey, is to like celebrate the wins and recognize them. And we don't, but like
take them more.
Like but it is still like, we're always like looking at the next opportunity, the next thing.
I think
how to do it better. Yeah. I know. It's like if we just stopped and we're like, oh, we won this, and like, well, that'll be it. Okay.
Yeah. It's like you have to keep going. You have to keep looking for the next one. And take it in. Like we said, like you have to have that balance of like take it in, love it, cherish it, but then don't let it stop you, because you're still needing to grow and keep going.
Yeah. No, I mean, lately though, there has been some cool moments. Like you mentioned, like we won the IDEApitch competition, which was really cool. But lately, what's been really cool for me is the brand we're getting from people that like wouldn't have known us or recognized us like a year or two ago. Like we went, back to Chicago National Bridal Market, and like I felt like when we were there 2 years ago, I was like standing in the little like walkway, like, hi, we're Something Borrowed Blooms. Hi, we're Something Borrowed Blooms. Like just trying to stop anybody and everybody who would walk by me to talk to me, like so I could tell them who we were. And like this year, it was like the opposite. It's like people were coming to us and saying like, oh, we follow you, or we love your brand, or we want to have you in our store. And like the brand recognition has really shifted. And so that was really cool. And then I went to Costa Rica recently, and there were like people at the resort who knew Something Blooms. Like they were both like honeymooners. Like it was like 3 people who were like, oh my God, I know your brand. And like they totally knew Something Borrowed Blooms. And it was like, that to me was like, oh my God, this is really cool, So I think as we continue to grow and the brand recognition like really starts to like, permeate, then to me, that's super exciting. That's new. So right now I'm enjoying that.
That's like those little pinch me moments.
Yeah.
I feel like I went through the same thing from like the Olympics. From like my first Olympics, where I was just like I was there, but nobody really thought anything. And then when I went to my second Olympics, everybody was like, you're going to do so well. And it was just like a pinch me moment. I was call my mom, and she was all excited to hear that like people were excited for me.
Yeah. I know, it's true. It's like when someone is the work you've been doing, it feels good, right? So I bet I can imagine that was a totally different experience, like Olympics 1 to Olympics 2, like so casual, by the way.
Well, we always like to share our mantras, and so my mantra is have courage and be kind, and Nicole
is she believed she could, so she did.
So we want to know, do you have a mantra?
Can I curse?
Yes.
Okay, it's not as eloquent and sweet and beautiful as y'all's are, but like I try to think about this, and literally the only thing, I have to be honest, like from when we started the company, and Cameron can attest to this, our motto has always been figure it out. Because every day you're facing a new challenge and a new obstacle, and you're having to figure it out. And so that just is the motto. I still say it today, almost 6 years in. So, but I think really the point of that is like, there's always a way, like you find a way, right? Like you find a way. I think it comes with like being a team player, being a leader, any scenario you might be in, find a way, and you will.
That's it. I like it. Straight to the point. Well, Lauren, this has been really, really cool to learn about Something Borrowed Blooms and your journey, and to hear all the things that y'all still have planned. And so if you're listening or watching, make sure to go follow Something Borrowed Blooms. They're an incredible company. If you're in the wedding market, ladies, definitely go check them out. They have beautiful wedding flowers. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with us.
I'm so honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, that concludes this episode of the 3G podcast. And thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
All right.
And that's a wrap for this week's episode of
The 3G podcast.